All right, so I ran across this story today, and it really caught me by surprise. Uh, but before we even get into what the story is about, um, I do want to kind of open, give a very transparent look on my views on social issues. I not only, you know, host a podcast here. I also listen to other podcasts. I listen to um, talk shows. I'm not just a someone who does this without actually listening to other people. And one of the things that drives me crazy about some of these hosts of other programs that I listen to, they don't, not all of them, but some of them, I guess, in order to not offend anybody, they never go on a personal level and say, well, you know what, here's what I think of this issue. They will kind of talk about it from this standoffish approach. And I kind of feel like we're in a day and age where, we're a small podcast. We don't have many viewers. And I don't ever want to be dishonest with any of you. And I want to be open and upfront with as much as I possibly can be, that without going into like uncomfortable stuff. And we are going to talk about some uncomfortable things in this segment. It's really, it's unavoidable. But, as we've talked about Ghostbusters 3 times, and some people might say that that's a bit much going into that territory because there's all these, political ramifications going into it. If we're going to talk about movies, we have to sometimes talk about things that have topics that may not be the best or the easiest to approach. So here's how I'd like to open up. I'm a Bible-believing Christian. As such, I don't believe homosexuality is a moral lifestyle choice. And I know that that is not the popular thing right now to say, especially on YouTube and the online community. If you have a channel and, you basically, even YouTube, June last month was, Gay Pride Month. I don't know if they still call it that, but, they had rainbow colored hearts on their logo for a couple of days and, all this stuff. So Google has made, no qualms about telling you how they feel as a company. And I have my reservations about that. But as an individual, and according to who I identify as a person, which first and foremost, I'm a Christian, I just cannot accept that lifestyle as being moral and right and correct. We can, I don't want to go into the specifics of why I have these beliefs, but I have thought it through and I do have my reasons. All that being said, this was a very interesting article that came out regarding the next Star Trek movie. I believe it's just called Star Trek Beyond. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, to give you some backgrounds of Star Trek, I haven't really had much of an interest in Star Trek until these new movies. The reboot / they're not really reboots, but they kind of are. And I like the way they've done it. I love the first one. I thought Into Darkness was a great sequel follow-up. And I was really looking forward to Star Trek Beyond. Now, apparently, Simon Pegg, who actually plays Scotty in the movie, I don't know if he was a screenwriter on the previous ones, but he is a screenwriter for Star Trek Beyond. And this article is on Polygon. He apparently decided to include a gay character in the film. And he revealed that Hikaru Sulu is gay, and actually the whole decision to make him gay was an homage to George Takei, who is openly gay, has been so for many, many years. and he's a big advocate of the LGBT community, obviously. And with George Takei, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he has said on the political side of things. He has said some really offensive stuff. But here, it's really interesting because Simon Pegg wrote this into Sulu's character basically as an homage to George Takei. And George Takei didn't actually appreciate it. And let's get into it. He actually called it a really unfortunate decision. Let's see. Where did this all start? Trying to look for Takei's quotes here. He's not quoted as saying much. He did state that even though Sulu's sexuality was never explicitly addressed, Takei said that to make the character gay when Gene Roddenberry never thought of him that way was a twisting of Gene's creation. And Gene Roddenberry, of course, is the original writer, creator of the Star Trek series. And, George Takei, much like Liam, who am I thinking? I'm going to say the wrong actor's name here. He passed away recently. He played Spock, the original Spock. I can't think of his name. I'm thinking of another actor's name, but I'm not going to say it.
You know what? I'm not going to say I don't like. I'm not into Star Trek, but I know the name of that man, and it's going to drive me crazy until I figure out.
And now you can't think of it. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to look this up.
Yeah, I don't know about you. That's one of the worst things for me is when I know a character.
Leonard Nimoy.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
You know what? I was thinking. I was thinking of Liam Neeson. And just because similar, LLN and anyway, yeah, glad I didn't accidentally call him that. But yeah, Leonard Nimoy, George Takei is kind of at his level as far as, he was on the original show. He knew Gene Roddenberry. He knows if anyone knew what Gene Roddenberry's vision for the show and the characters were, it would be his generation, alongside William Shatner. So it's really interesting that he came out as, even though he's openly gay, an open advocate for LGBT rights, he's actually come out and said, he doesn't approve of them writing Sulu this way. And of course, Simon Pegg came out and defended it and said, he had an interesting response. He said, "We could have introduced a new gay character, but he or she would have been primarily defined by their sexuality, seen as the gay character, rather than simply for who they are, and isn't that tokenism?" And this is kind of my issue with having a gay character to simply placate a very small percentage of your audience. And I understand, society has gotten to this point where, homosexuality is very acceptable. So you do have these audience members, but that apparently I didn't realize that there's all this outcry for all this, LGBT representation in movies and TVs, but it's kind of getting a bit wearisome just to have a character in there and be that token character just so that you can say, hey, our show's got a member of the LGBT community in it. Does yours? When, we're talking about 3% of the population that actually identify this way. And honestly, I have to applaud George Takei here because he didn't take the easy road and just say, Yeah, I'm really happy that the character that I was able to play as for so many years shares the same defining trait that I do. Instead, he actually came out and he's just like, no, the creator of this, and this, I get into this train of thought where people like say George Lucas ruined Star Wars with the prequels. Guess what? He created Star Wars. He can ruin it if he wants to. Sorry. At least when he had the rights.
Yeah.
Now Disney can ruin it if they want to. And there's nothing he can do about it. But don't worry, I don't think they will. Anyway, it is the creators, the person who started and wrote these characters and wrote this story into existence. And yes, there have been a lot of other hands and involved in in this property. By this time, we've had Star Trek, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all these different incarnations of Star Trek. We're talking about an original character that was written by a genius of science fiction. And for George Takei to take this stance, I think it's brave, and I think it's really the only stance that you can take. It's kind of like what I said in one of our other podcasts, where it's like, if you take the character of Batman, who is a rich white guy who is orphaned, and spent a lot of time, studying detective skills and martial arts. If you change any one of those aspects of him, you get a completely different character. Now, how does this affect me seeing the movie? I tried to find out, how is that going to actually be discussed or shown in the movie, and I can't find it. I honestly don't want to go see a movie with a couple of guys making out. To me, that's just not what I'm going to pay money to go see. Just like, by the way, I don't hate anyone who practices homosexuality. I don't hate anyone who's gay or belongs to the LGBT community. Also, as a part of being a Christian, we are called to love everyone. And to keep everything consistent, I don't see movies where people are just having sex either. So, heterosexual or otherwise. So, I keep things very consistent as far as what I will go see in movies. And this is just one of those things that I'm just not comfortable seeing. And to me, it's like, great, I'm going to miss out on what probably otherwise is going to be a great Star Trek movie. But, that's just the stance that I've decided to take on it. But what did you think about this whole issue with George Takei coming out and saying thanks but no thanks?
Well, to go ahead and start off with, I too am also a Christian. I do think that homosexuality is an unnatural thing. I would just like you, I don't hate anyone in the homosexual community. I actually have like 3 or 4 friends who have come out as gay, and I love them to death. One of them is a very close friend of mine, and I've gotten to know plenty of other people in the LGBT community, and I by no means hate any of them. I treat them just like I would any other person. However, just like with anyone else's personal life in that area, I don't want to know. I don't want to know if you're straight. I don't want to know if you're gay. You leave that to you. I don't want to know. That's my condition. As long as you just don't share with me the things that you do with another person, I'm fine. I really don't care. As far as entertainment goes, I'm getting a little tired of people having to have a gay person in their show or in their movie or in their game because they're afraid of being called out by the LGBT community saying, hey, what the crap?
You need to be inclusive.
Yeah, but why though? If a game isn't... First off, there shouldn't be a game that is just specialized for like someone's sexuality like that. Like I know of a few games that are like that and that are actually kind of popular. That's weird. And I understand there's a community for that, and there's a whole like branch of gamers who play games like that. I see that as weird. I'm not going to play those video games. I'm just not. But for a video game that doesn't have to they don't have to focus on like that. Just someone's homosexuality or anyone's sexuality for that matter. Like if that's not an important thing, a part of the game, why does there need to be someone in there? More specifically, why does anyone's sexuality need to be like specified in a game? Like, who cares? Like, I don't know.
What if you have an important romantic part of a character's story? I mean, at that point, you're gonna find out one way or another.
Okay, yeah. Well, if there are games like that, like I was actually talking to you about this earlier. I was talking about how like a lot of games, even before like homosexuality was a big thing. There were video games as small as the Harvest Moon franchise that had, I think it was Friends from Mineral Town. There was, I believe, a DS version of Friends of Mineral Town, and for that game, for Harvest Moon, there's a marriage system. You can build a relationship with someone, and then you can give them a feather, and then you're pretty much married. Well, it wasn't huge, and I'm sure very little people will actually like care about it or anything. But in the newer version of Friends of Mineral Town, there was a system in the newer version called the friendship system, where you could romance someone of the same gender, and you pretty much do everything else you would do with someone if you were trying to build a relationship with someone of the opposite sex. You would give them gifts, you would talk to them a lot, you would do all their like romantic, cutscenes, and then you would give them a blue feather, and then instead of being married to the person of the same sex, you would be really close friends who happen to live in the same house and live in the same bed. But they called it friendship because Harvest Moon, like, it was a very kid-like game, and it was a very simple game. I love the series. In a game like that, then yes, if there is an option, and if you are looking for the option of someone's sexuality so that you can befriend them and then marry them, then yes, okay, I can see if you want to reach out to the homosexual community and be like, hey, if you want to, you can be homosexual in this game, and the characters will accept it. Like, that's fine. In my eyes, that's fine. I'm not going to take that route, just because that's just not how I play a video game. I want to play a video game. When I play a video game, I want to try and put my own persona into that game. I want to put the decisions that I would make, the things that I would do, and the people that I would want around me in a video game. That's just how I like to play it. So, I'm not going to be gay in my games. That's just what I'm just not going to do. If you want to be, then sure. But if there's a game like Halo, I don't think there is. I didn't play the 5th one, and I don't know the story. If someone were to complain that there wasn't a homosexual character in Halo, I would lose my mind. Why does that matter?
It's a game about shooting aliens.
Exactly. There's no relationships in the game whatsoever. And just like in TV shows, and movies, and other video games, there are so many people who are just throwing everything into these games. Like, they're just like, we need a gay person, or it's not going to work. People are going to hate us for it. Like,
yeah.
Don't think like that.
I mean, two of my favorite shows, Walking Dead and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., have both introduced gay characters, and it's just like it's not even needed. It doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't do anything that you couldn't do with a heterosexual person. It doesn't add anything. It's just like, what is the point other than you are placating to to a group that just wants that wants their lifestyle to be accepted by everyone.
Yeah.
Whether or not you agree with it.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like, some people in the gay community, they don't want people to, like, do it because they don't want to add, like, the token gay person. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
It happens every time.
Yes. And just like you said in The Walking Dead, like, first off, I already think that people having, like, sexual relations and that, like, that's not my priority. At least that wouldn't be my priority in a zombie apocalypse. Mine would be food, water. Am I going to be safe in the night?
Shelter.
Cool. Weapons. Yeah. Like, you're surviving. Like, if you've gotten to the point where you have a community, everything's safe, you can't be touched by them, then sure, start a family, whatever you want. Showing it, like, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. Glenn is probably one of my favorite characters in the entire show. Glenn and Maggie have had... Glenn, okay. Yeah. There is so much unnecessary, like, sex scenes between those two. It's just fan service. And like,
that's all it is.
Yeah. And just like for homosexuality, it's, first of all, it's creating a token homosexual because...
And by the way, they're a married couple on the show. So I have no problem with them, you know... They're a married couple. Of course, that's what they're going to do. However, I don't want to see it.
No. It's just weird.
Even though I'm okay with that lifestyle, obviously, I still don't want to see it. I don't think it really adds to the characters. You can have a married couple or even a romantically engaged couple. Like, honestly, with Rick, I couldn't care less if he was with Michonne or, you know, the other character. I don't even remember her name that got killed.
Lori.
Well, that was his wife. I'm talking about...
Oh, you're talking about the blonde woman.
Yes.
Okay.
Whose son's name... I remember his name. His name was Ron.
I don't know. That family deserved to die. They were all stupid.
But yeah, I think the point you're making here, though, is accurate. It's just that by trying to avoid a token gay character...
You create a token gay character.
Exactly. And, you know, they're doing it with Sulu, and it's just really interesting that George Takei has come out and said, like, actually, no, I'm not okay with this. So,
yeah.
really interesting story altogether. Kind of makes me rethink him a little bit.